Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And the Chennai Super Kings have beaten the Sunrisers Hyderabad by 7 wickets. Regarding the 11s of both teams starting for the home side, the same 12 players that were used by CSK against the Royal Challengers Bangalore were used once again today, with Akash Singh starting ahead of Ambati Raidu based on a decision of the toss. And regarding SRH, one change for them, Umran Malik in for Dina Raja. MS Dhoni won the toss and chose to field first. Now, I won't be as critical of this decision like I was when he did this against the Rajasthan Royals, simply because in that game I thought the decision played into the hands of the Royals. They got 175, which was 20 runs over par, and with the spinners they have, I thought it was going to be difficult for CSK to get over the line that game, and in the end they couldn't do so. Whereas in this game, I didn't think the toss was going to be such a telling factor. I thought even if SRH batted first, which is their strength, I didn't think they'd even get to 150, and they didn't in the end. And if they were going to chase 160 odd that CSK would have probably got if they batted first, then I don't think they would have chased the squad either. So simply because of the fact that whatever they would have done, I thought CSK had quite a bit of an advantage. I thought the toss wasn't necessarily a factor in this game, and even though I would have chosen to bat first, I wasn't really too fussed about it. And the openers for SRH walked out to bat in Harry Brook and Abhishek Sharma. And I've not been impressed with the tactics so far in this competition like you would have seen from my previous videos, but I thought Abhishek Sharma opening the batting was actually quite a good move. And maybe they expected spin to be introduced early, and it wasn't introduced for at least the first 4 overs or so. And looking at the record of Mahesh Theekshana, he has a better record against right-handers than against left-handers. And had he been introduced early on within the first 4 overs, I think promoting Abhishek Sharma to open the batting, the position that he played so well in the previous season, would have been a good tactic from SRH. And either way, I actually was quite pleased that they did that from their point of view. And I thought CSK, yes, it didn't really hurt them too much. Even when they were 34 without loss, I thought, right, the spinners are going to bowl soon and then the complexion of the game will change. But I still thought starting off with 4 overs with the 2 Indian seamers was a bit of a risk, considering that if they got it wrong to a Harry Brook and Abhishek Sharma, who still plays pace very well, then SRH would have got the start that they would have liked to get, and they could have scrambled their way to a higher score than what they got to. And I thought credit to the Indian seamers, and within the first 4 overs you saw Tushar Deshpande, especially his first over, and I think Akash Singh bowled 3 up front, giving 17 runs and taking the wicket of Harry Brook. Credit to both those seamers, where they made sure that it wasn't as easy for the SRH players to score. And even with the 34 runs that they got, it wasn't all convincing, and Harry Brook was dismissed soon after bowling of Akash Singh. So I thought that even with the seamers bowling up front, they did a good job in containing the damage, and even the runs that were got weren't exactly convincing from the batsmen. And in my view, I would have actually played one less Indian domestic seamer and brought in Prashant Solanki, simply because I didn't think there was a need to bowl even 1 over of pace against this team. And you could say that right, Akash Singh went well, Tushar Deshpande in his first and third over went well. But you look at this scorecard, you look at how this innings panned out, and you think there wasn't any reason to bowl in an over of pace, because Abhishek Sharma, with how good of a player spin he is, the moment Ravindra Jadeja was included in the attack, he would dismiss. Rahul Tripathi tried to sweep Ravindra Jadeja and would dismiss, and we saw Makarabal be dismissed off a stumping. So these are 3 out of their 4 players that I thought they would be relying on today, with their 4th player being Washington Sundar. And the spinner in Ravindra Jadeja cleaned them up. So I think that there wasn't a need to really include that second pace bowler today. I thought they could have maybe included a Prashant Solanki ahead of Tushar Deshpande, but it didn't really hurt them too much today. And on Ravindra Jadeja, we've seen that on turning tracks he's bowled balls throughout his career, but ever since the Asia Cup of 2022, even when he bowls on batting friendly tracks like he did against RCB the previous game, he's gone quite well there too. I think none for 37 when you're defending 227 is an outstanding effort, and I think he's been CSK's best bowler by far this season, and I'm not surprised that he's once again got a great contribution in this innings. SRH was 71 for 1, and after the wicket of Rahul Tripathi, or I don't know, Abhishek Sharma, I think, the game expectedly changed from that point in time. And like I said, even with the start that SRH got, I just thought CSK had the resources to really dictate terms at any point that they kind of got an opening. And when they got that opening, they made sure that they dictated terms from that point in time. And from 71 for 1, SRH went to 134 for 7. With the employment of Abhishek Sharma in the opening slot, which I thought was a good move, Mayank Agarwal batted at 6 in this game, and we've seen he hasn't quite been himself in this IPL. Averages 82 in the domestic circuit, but I don't know really what is happening to him. As you would know, I really would like Mayank Agarwal to do well. I have a lot of regard for him as a cricketer, as well as a person on face value. But he hasn't been going too well thus far. He's got a few starts, a 48 or 41 in the previous game, and it would have been good if, with all this capability that he has, that he could have continued with that innings and potentially won the game for his side. And with the starts that he's got before then, getting that match-winning contribution would have been a great confidence booster. Unfortunately, he couldn't get his team over the line in that game. And in this game, with the stumping, even though he's such a good player against spin, but with the way it all happened, I kind of felt bad for him. I hope he gets back into the runs soon. He's been in great form in the domestic circuit, but I thought in this game with Abhishek Sharma opening the batting, they probably would have used him as a floater if they used him at all. But in this case, they were 71 for 1. They didn't need to use him. Aiden Markram walked out of bat, and then the collapse started after the second wicket fell. And in the end, a great bit of glove work from MS Dhoni, and we saw a great catch off Aiden Markram as well beforehand. But I really hope Mayank Agarwal does get back into the run soon. And if he wasn't going to walk out in the top 4, then it was going to be a question as to he'd be kind of batting quite a bit out of position, more than quite a bit out of position than what he usually would be batting, of course. And another thing I didn't understand was, why did Marco Jansen walk out ahead of Washington Sundar? 17 off 22, and you've got a Washington Sundar who scored 9 off 6. I thought, had he played a few overs against the spinners, we've seen, in my view, he is as good as a proper batsman. I think he's a batsman that bowls. Him batting he could have batted at number 7, where Marco Jansen batted, which I think he could still bat one position higher than that. And he would have done a great job. I don't understand why they sent out Marco Jansen, who didn't have a great time this innings at all. So that was on SRH. A predictable innings, a predictable score, and 134 for 7. And on CSK, like I said, Jadeja expectedly doing well. Mahesh Theekshana, who, even though he went for 41 in his previous game, taking the wicket of Glenn Maxwell and going it slightly under the required rate for that chase is still quite a good effort, especially in Bangalore. And 1 for 27 in his 4 today. Unsurprisingly, got back into the economy rate as well. Akash Singh, like I said, 1 for 17 in his 3. I thought that he went quite well today. And I think he did a great job in setting the tone to Harry Brook in a phase where, had he got it wrong, they could have got the vital power play runs, and it would have added some runs to the score. Matisha Patirana, like I said before, I didn't think he was cut out for this level with what we've seen of him in the previous year and in the T10 as well. And I still do have my reservations. Yes, he has gone very well in these last 2 games, and I hope he can continue. And I don't know what he's done behind the scenes between IPLs, and I'm not really gonna. I think if he has put in the work behind the scenes and if he does reap the rewards because of that, of course, I would change my view. But I just think that, based on what we've seen of him before, I thought it would be a tough gig for him to step into the shoes of the best Yorker bowler in South Africa. But he's done brilliantly in the 2 games that he's played so far, so hopefully he can continue that form. And with his action to bowl 140 odd, and at times the high 140 odds, he went 147 kph delivery in the previous game against RCB. So the pace has certainly increased, and I think that he's gone much better in these 2 games than what we've seen of him previously. And that was on that. A very predictable scoreline for SRH, and I thought CSK would chase this total down quite easily. The CSK openers walked out to bat, and I thought the start with a ball from Bhuvneshwar Kumar was good, none for 10 in the 2 overs that he bowled. Unfortunately for them, the second and fourth overs of the innings set CSK along their way, bowled by Marco Jansen and Aiden Markram respectively. And on Marco Jansen, I think, yes, he went for runs today, but if you're going to include Marco Jansen in the T20 side, he is a power play bowler. In my view, his 4 overs should be finished off before the 10th over. Teams, including SRH themselves, have bowled him as a death and have paid the price. So even though he went for 37 runs in his 3 overs today, I thought that they should look to finish his overs off before the 10th over to fully maximise him as a bowler. And if you concede 60 runs in 6 overs when the game or the scenario was against you from the get-go, even before a ball was bowled in this game, and you only have 134 to defend, then it basically set the result in stone if it wasn't set in stone already. And on Aiden Markram, his over went for 11, the only over that he bowled, and with what we've seen of him in his T20 career so far, where he's got an economy rate of less than 7, I thought that he would have been a vital component in terms of making a match out of this situation for SRH. And with him only bowling 1 over that went for 11 runs, they lost out on that factor. And a very good opening partnership from CSK. Devon Conway and Rudraj Gaikwad putting up 87 runs for the first wicket. And I thought that I would have liked Rudraj Gaikwad to get to 50 this game because of the low scores in the previous 2 games. And although his dismissal may seem to be unlucky, which you maybe could say it was, I thought that he kind of carelessly wandered out of the non-striker end crease after the ball was bowled, and we saw what happened. So I wouldn't say it was completely unlucky, but I would have certainly liked him to get to 50, and unfortunately that didn't happen. And the economical factor of the SRH spinners did kick in after that point. We saw in this game Washington Sundar with figures of none for 16 in 2.4 overs. And Mayank Markanday once again continuing his outstanding run this season with 2 for 23 in his 4. And Mayank Dagar, who, on observation, compared to all the spinners that we have seen so far in this competition, I think Mayank Dagar in today's spell was the slowest through the air compared to all the spinners that we have seen. The fastest delivery that he bowled, I think, was 95 kph. And you've got the case where after the first wicket fell, SRH did put the brakes on the CSK scoring rate, and at one point it was 11 or 14 to win. But by that point, you still thought that CSK would win the game, especially with Devon Conway going the way he was. 77 off 57, and I thought that, yes, he played brilliantly, and he played brilliantly the previous game as well, but I thought there wasn't really any threat at all from the SRH attack, and I expected there not to be. Like I said at the start of the video, you've got other sides that have got the attacking options with their spinners in terms of SRH. They're kind of in a no man's land where, would you back their spinners on a batting friendly track? No, you wouldn't. We saw that against the Rajasthan Royals. Would you back their spinners on a turning track? No, you wouldn't. You saw that against LSG, and in this case, then they're in a bit of a no man's land where you're getting an economy rate. You've got bowlers like Washington Sundar, who is more catered to bowling in the power play in this format of the game. If you've got Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Marco Jansen, then would he get the opportunity to bowl in the power play as much? Or I'm not sure he would. And he's not got the versatility as of now to be a threat in the middle overs like other spinners are. You've got someone like a Krunal Pandya, who's also an economical bowler, but he can kind of experiment with angles, and there's much more a threat in whatever phase of the innings that he bowls at. Whereas if for Washington Sundar, he seems much more catered to be a power play bowler, and when things go wrong for him, then he doesn't seem to be able to respond as of now. So looking at the selection of spinners that they have, this will be a problem for them. I thought this even in my preview, like I said, and let's see how they go. But I think on paper, it's a side that really focused on their batting, and if you're looking at their batting, it's filled with players that just really like to get on with things. But the one thing that they did neglect in a way, I thought, was their bowling. They didn't really bolster that core enough, and I think they are paying the price for it. They've got Adil Rashid, who did seem a good buy at the time, and I even said they could have gone for him in my auction. But you're looking at the overall composition of this of the spinners, and you're thinking there's not one bowler who you're thinking, right, 130, let's bowl this ball up front, and you're thinking every ball's an event. You've got an Adam Zampa, for example, in the Rajasthan Royals. I use Vendra Chahal also, while you're thinking every ball's an event, the ball could turn square and something can happen. Whereas in this case, you've got a case where, right, they'll go at 6, 7 and over, but in a general sense, they're not going to really do much. So that's on our side. I think they will struggle with this kind of a thing, and let's see how they go in the next few games. There are 2 games taking place tomorrow, and starting off with the first, a home game for the Lucknow Super Giants against the Gujarat Titans. And in my view, the team that wins the toss in that game should look to bat first. You wouldn't want to be chasing a score on the slowest surface offered in this ground against the attacks of both these sides. And on the home side, you've seen the record of the captain himself in the last few years when batting first in T20s compared to batting second. And the difference, it is quite a stark difference, really. And considering that, I think LSG should look to bat first all the time. It works best for their team in terms of their bowlers defending the runs that the batsman post, and I think it does work best for the captain as well. And regarding who they should play, I've gone for pretty much the same 11 that they have played in the last few games. I would like to see Nicholas Puran batting at 4, which we did see in the previous game, but I'd like to see again. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they bat Krunal at 4, considering the numbers of Nicholas Puran against Rashid Khan. I think striking at 63 and over 40 balls faced. However, I still think Puran should bat at 4. And if you've got a Kyle Mayers that somehow tees off, and pretend if Gujarat Titans continue to not play Sai Kishore, who would be that spinner that could bowl to Kyle Mayers early on, they may have to include Rashid Khan earlier on to Kyle Mayers. And if Nicholas Puran isn't dismissed by the end, pretend if he walks out earlier, then you've got a case where a Marcus Stoinis who would prefer pace on the ball would get to bat alongside Nicholas Puran, where Rashid Khan's overs are bowled out earlier. So I think they could manipulate the situation in terms of how the opposition uses its bowlers, where if Kyle Mayers does get on a roll tomorrow, especially if he's helped by the fact that if Sai Kishore doesn't play, then Rashid Khan may have to be introduced early, and that would mean that the batsmen to come would enjoy themselves more in the latter overs of the innings. And this is one thing that they definitely shouldn't do. We've seen in previous games where you think, right, they're 150 odd for 6, the impact sub is used, and they think, right, let's sub in Krishnappa Gautam to hit 1-6. Don't do that, because we saw in the game against the Punjab Kings, not only did you get dismissed for 1 off 2, they could have still defended. They should have defended 160 on that ground, and I thought it was poor captaincy from KL Rahul. And I think that with Amit Mishra, Ravi Bishnoi and Krunal Pandya, that is the triumvirate of spinners that really would help them defend the scores on this ground. Without Amit Mishra in the previous game, that third threat wasn't really there. And I thought it was poor captaincy, quite short-sightedness really, to send Krishnappa Gautam as an impact substitute, knowing that you wouldn't be able to field Amit Mishra in that game. So I hope they don't do that. And if they win the toss, I hope they do bat first. And regarding bowling to the Gujarat Titans when they're defending a score, I'd like to see, they could open with Kyle Mayers, I think, to swing the ball against Shubman Gill. And I'd like to see Mark Wood use it as an attacking option against numbers 2, 3 and 4. Vridhiman Saha, Sai Sudarshan and Hardik Pandya bowling short balls at pace to them. If they break the back of the chase, and you've got the spinners as well, the triumvirate of spinners bowling to the middle order, who I think you've got David Miller, who I think has improved against spin in the last while, and in the form that he's in, I'm sure when he gets in, he can do any type of bowling. But you've got someone like a Rahul Tewatia, who in my view prefers to hit pace than spin. So if they manage to break the back of the chase early on, then I do think that they've got the attack to win this game. Against the Gujarat Titans batting side, that hasn't convinced me so far. And on the Gujarat Titans, if it is a case where they are chasing, then we saw in the first in the 2 games that they have lost so far, it was because of strategical errors. I don't know why Rashid Khan bowled Yash Dayal in the last over. I don't even know why Yash Dayal was playing in that game. And In the game against the Rajasthan Royals, Mohammad Shami bowling that 19th over, I thought they were going to get the runs needed off that. And while including Noor Ahmed as a substitute worked or looked okay when, in terms of, you thought the Rajasthan Royals at that point in time would have struggled to get close to the actual score, the moment things went wrong, then they were missing that Josh Little at the end. So I think that we've seen a case where the Gujarat Titans, the 2 games that they have lost has been because of strategical errors, where they really should have won those games. And I think if they are going to defend a score in this case, well, I think they would find it easier. They should make sure they remain clued on. And chasing a score, we've seen even when they needed 13 or 12 to win, it's been quite precarious for them, which is the reason why chasing a score against this LSG side on this surface, I'm not sure if they can rely on that. You could call it luck from the previous year and at times in this season too. So I think the Gujarat Titans will have to be at their best in this game, and so should LSG, because if LSG bats second against the Gujarat Titans attack and the bowling side gets it right, you've got a captain that takes it slowly in the power play, and we've seen the stat recently posted on Cricinfo based on his 2022 and 2023 T20 power play stats. Deepak Hooda, Krunal Pandya and Aish Bardoni haven't convinced me too much this season so far. So you've really only got the overseas batsmen in Mayers, Puran and Marcus Stoinis. And I think LSG both sides would preferably want to bat first, but I think in LSG's case especially, they would probably want to bat first in this game. I think chasing a score would be, it would be far too much pressure on the 3 players I just mentioned. And on the second game, the Mumbai Indians versus the Punjab Kings in the Wankhede Stadium, I think in the last 2 games, Sam Curran has chose to bowl first, and I don't know why that's been. Yes, I thought they got lucky against the Lucknow Super Giants, and against RCB, they really could have won that game, 72 of 48. And in my view, this team, like I've said before, apart from Shikhar Dhawan and Attar Bataide, and maybe Harpreet Bhatia could fill that role, these is only 3 players that seem like they could bat time. The other players are more impact players that score quick fire 20s. Yes, Sikandar has scored 57 or 41, I think, in the game against LSG, but he doesn't necessarily do that all the time. So I think this is a side where 72 or 48, you think if you just play sensibly, you can get over the line, and in the end they mess it up. So I think their batting approach may cost them in this game, especially if they bat second. I wouldn't back them to chase even a total over 170 with the approach of batting that they've got and the types of players they've got in terms of the ratio of players who can bat time and who are impact players. So I'd like them to bat first. And if they bat first and they get to a decent score, they've got a good attack there. And I think the Mumbai Indians side would much rather bat first against this Punjab Kings side as well, because you've got a case where if you're chasing a decent score, if Punjab somehow managed to get there, then you wouldn't want to be facing Arshdeep Singh, Kahisa Rabada and the spinners as well. And I think Sikandar Raza should be included in the side alongside Kahisa Rabada in this game. I don't know why they weren't included in the previous game. I think Rabada, with what he would do with a new ball up front in conditions that would aid the seamers in the Wankhede surface, would help. And you've got also a case where I think Sikandar Raza would be a tough bowler to hit in this game. You've got Rohit Sharma and Ishan Kishan, who I think if you both spin to the Mali, especially Sikandar Raza to the Mali in this game, maybe alongside Rahul Chahar at times, they wouldn't find it as easy going. And I think with the way that Rahul Chahar bowls, you've got a Suryakumar Yadav who also likes to sweep the spinners, and with the flatter trajectory that Sikandar Raza bowls at, maybe something could happen. So in terms of who I think will win this game, if the Punjab Kings bat first, they've got a chance. But knowing what Sam Curran has done in the last 2 games, then if you choose to bowl first, which I think will be the wrong call, I think MI should win this game. So let's see how things go. But like I said, being tactically astute, we've seen, is so important. And we've seen the games that the Gujarat Titans have lost and LSG have lost as well because of that lack of being tactically astute. I thought the calls from MI, especially in the first game against RCB, didn't really make too much sense. And also we've seen the Punjab Kings where they got lucky against the Lucknow Super Giants, but I thought the choosing to bowl first in the previous game was the wrong decision, and their batting approach has been found wanting. So that's on that. Let's see how those games go tomorrow. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?